I think the latest episode of Invincible was probably the best one so far. I think it's definitely my personal favourite as well. This video contains spoilers for Season 4, Episode 5 of Invincible, so please don't cry if you watch it and get spoiled. The show does have an issue with taking forever to progress the story, as we saw with last week's episode, but this one actually did quite a bit. It's an episode of two very different halves. Firstly, we see Nolan on Earth. I thought they'd have him on Earth for 30 seconds and not have him reunite with anyone, but he actually does reunite with Art and Debbie. The Debbie reunion is about what you'd expect, to be honest. Nolan tries to apologise, but when you kill so many people, sorry just doesn't cut the mustard. I found Nolan's apology to be quite feeble. It sounded like it was intended to be solemn, but he said something about not loving Oliver's mother, which I found strange because Debbie's issue is not so much that he gave his Viltrumite man porridge to another life form, but more the fact that he destroyed Chicago and killed thousands of people. So it's a bit weird to me that he focused on that. He ends up telling him to leave. There is an amusing scene afterwards where Mark is on the way out of the house, and Debbie just starts talking about the issues with Nolan as he walks past. Mark clearly just wants to get out the door and go and do his own thing, and kind of amusing to me. The reunion with Art is much more powerful. They have a pretty standard chat over a few beers. They make a few jokes. Art tells Nolan that he closed his account. Nolan says, "Did I forget to pay my tab before I left?" And then Art points out that he only dresses superheroes. And you can hear the pain in Nolan's voice when he hears that. He says, "Oh," and looks down at the ground like he's about to cry. Nolan's obviously past the point of redemption. But that's what I like about the show. It's not actually going to redeem him. It's just what a real person would probably want if they were Nolan. In the earlier episodes of the season, Mark was getting angrier and angrier, but in these last two episodes he's been much lighter. I like that because that's just how people are. We go through stuff and it influences our actions, but it doesn't become our entire personality. Anyway, in the second half of the episode, Mark and Oliver go into space with the rest of the Resistance. Nolan and Oliver are then reunited on the spaceship. Turns out Oliver is upset with Nolan, which seems to be a recurring theme. And Nolan ends up agreeing to let him join the Resistance, almost out of a sense of guilt than anything else. The ship blows up, leaving Oliver and Nolan in the part of the ship that got destroyed. The show tries to play this off as something important for a brief moment, but we all know they can survive things like this, and of course they do. We have a battle between who knows and who cares, but also the return of Conquest. I like that they bring him back so soon. I was thinking we'd have to wait ages to see him again. This battle takes place in space, but everyone's able to speak to each other telepathically. Which is interesting because in Season 2, Alan says his implant only works between him and someone else, not two other someone else's. He also mentions that he is told an update is on the way, but it must have come because these guys are in a fucking group chat. The relationship between Conquest and Mark is more and more interesting to me. It seems to add an extra layer to it every time they meet. Conquest points out that Mark only beat him previously with the help of his magic girlfriend, who isn't here this time, which just adds an extra layer to the threat. Oliver needs to breathe, so Nolan rocks up and tells him, "Fuck off to that convenient planet over there." Conquest follows, triggering Mark's rage, and we've never really seen him so angry in my opinion. As Mark first attacks Conquest, he gives a line of "You will never breathe again," and I thought that was a pretty good line. At first I just thought it meant Mark intends to kill him, but he actually literally means Conquest will never breathe again. The planet has a breathable atmosphere, but Mark grabs onto Conquest's neck and clings on all battle. As it goes on, Conquest becomes more and more desperate to get him off, becoming more and more blue. Reaches a climax when Conquest shoves his hand straight into Mark's organs and starts ripping them out. I find it so morbidly interesting to watch Conquest just pull out Mark's organs as if he was serving human spaghetti. It's genuinely one of the standout scenes of the show. Mark manages to kill Conquest just by hanging onto his neck. And I'm not sure if Conquest is actually dead here or not. I mean, humans can be choked out and survive, so I would assume a Viltrumite can as well. but I think it will make a lot less sense if Conquest somehow survives from here on. You can't deliver a line like "you'll never breathe again" and then have him somehow survive. So I do think that'll be Conquest's final death. The pose Mark is left in here looks oddly familiar. Let me know in the comments if you can work out where it's been reused from. Making Tech Jacket a woman is an interesting choice. I don't know too much about the character, so I don't really care. I would like to know if there was any thought behind the decision other than Oliver needs a love interest. If I'm honest, I suspect it was just Oliver needs a love interest. But yeah, so far I consider her something of a nothing character. I do think it's good though that they're managing to give Oliver character development. At a time when so much other stuff is going on, they're managing to find things to do with Oliver, so I think that's quite good. Alan pointing out that a phrase means the same thing on Europa as it does on Earth is interesting. I think it's a self-aware joke of how weird it is that the Viltrumites all speak English. And I think the scene where Mark is about to fight Conquest and he says, "Are you going to tell me your darkest secrets again?" And Conquest goes, "That was in confidence." That's just funny to me, I don't know. I think the use of humour was really well placed during this episode. Anyway, that was my wisdom. Get lost.